Hi, everyone. I am so excited to launch Black Girl Joy, a podcast that's been in the works for many, many months. And so I am finally launching it. And we're going to start by talking about motherhood. So this is in honor of Mother's Day, which is this Sunday. We're going to talk to three lovely mothers, some of my favorite mothers that I know. So I'm going to add each person to the stream. So let me introduce you to Tamara.
Hi.
And then we have Tiffany.
Hi. Oh gosh, I'm so close. Hi.
And we have Shalise.
Hello.
Okay, so just a little background. I've known these ladies for many years. So Tamara, I've known for like almost, can you believe it? 15 years almost.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yes. Probably maybe about 14, somewhere around there. We've known each other. And so I started a mom's group and Tamara helped me launch it. And that's where I met Shalise and Tiffany. And so these are truly like my mom tribe. I love them to death. So I was like, why don't we get together and do this podcast? And I could tell Tiffany was hesitant, but she did it anyways. So we are here. We are here. So you guys can share a little bit about yourselves. We'll just go around the room. Tamara, you're the first one on my right. So
my name is Tamara. As she said, I have been a mom now for almost 14 years to one lovely boy who keeps me on my toes. He's a teenager now, so yeah, a lot of stories to go along with that.
all right, Miss Tiffany.
Tiffany, and I've been a mom for 22 years. And I'm also a mom to a daughter, and she is 6.
Awesome. All right, Miss Shalise.
Hello, everyone. I am Shalise. I have been a mother for 11 years to a wonderful young lady who might be 56.
Did you say 56?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. She's very wise.
She's really like a ripe 25. Like to me, she's right there. She's 25. All right, so we're gonna start off with a funny story. I'll leave mine to last, but I want to know, what's your most embarrassing mom moment?
I can't think of one out. There's so many. So many.
Mhm.
You guys can chime in. I can't think of one off the top
I'm
of my
trying to think of one that I can say. So
head. Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
yeah.
What be going on? I'm so confused. Okay, I guess I'll start. Mine is like broadcast approved. So I remember when my son was like, oh my gosh, he had to be about 4-ish. And you know how kids are like, they scared of stuff like the boogeyman, all this stuff. And so we're in Target and we're walking down the aisle. You guys may have heard the story, but we're walking down the aisle and there's this guy, it's this big burly guy right behind us. And I think he was in like all black. And Jalen was like, it's the boogeyman. It's the boogeyman. And he was like turning around, looking at the guy. It's the boogeyman. He's coming to get me out loud. I was like, oh my gosh, please stop calling this man the boogeyman out loud. It was so, I was like, oh my gosh, I was just dragging him down the aisle. Like, please stop. Please stop. Oh my gosh.
No, I don't have a story like that. I do. Well, for those, a lot of people don't know, so we don't necessarily celebrate Halloween.
Mhm.
And I remember whenever, I think he had to be about maybe 6 or 7,
Mhm.
and we were in Party City around Halloween time. And so they have like this goblin thing like at the front door. So whenever you walk in and out, it like makes noise and lights up and all this stuff. I guess he didn't pay attention to it whenever we first walked in, but whenever we were on our way out, that thing like lit up and just started doing the woo ah. My hook out of I had to like drop what I had in my hands and like chase him out because before he like ran out in the street, he was like, "It's gonna get me! It's gonna."
No, I have that same story with him, but we were going into like a CVS and they had it, and he refused. He was like, "I'm not going in there. I'm not going to." I'm like, "Dude, we just going into the store." He's like, "No." I'm like, "Okay."
Okay, I have a similar story, but with Chuck E. Cheese, wanting to go to Chuck E. Cheese so bad. But you know that creepy Chuck E. Cheese van?
Yeah.
He came out, my son was out the door running. I don't want Chucky.
That's hilarious.
Some stories are so cute because mine is not. The only thing that can come to mind was once upon a time I was trying to date, and I would do so like when my daughter went to bed, and she snuck downstairs. She heard me on the phone, and I passed gas. And she was like, out of nowhere, she was like, "So you're not gonna say excuse me?" And I'm like, the person didn't even know, but now they do.
Yes, that was more embarrassing for you then.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. All right. So Mother's Day is coming up, and I want to ask you, like, what are your greatest joys with motherhood? Like, what do you take the most from being a mother?
That he survived. Like, listen, I have raised a he is like he is sane so far. But no, seriously, I think that is it. Just knowing that I'm responsible enough to take care of somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
as challenging as it may be. And then, you drop the ball sometimes and you're not going to get everything right. But, just seeing how he's grown from just being like the little baby to now, sometimes I can see where he's like, oh, some things he may say impress me. I'm like, whose kid is this? But I'm like, oh, that's my kid. I'm doing a good job so far.
Good, you are.
Yeah, I would say the opportunity to learn through like someone so much younger than I am, right? Of just like being able to pinpoint like the simple joys of life that sometimes as an adult you easily skip over. Or even just like sometimes looking at the way she will analyze a situation versus like the way that I may handle it as a parent is just like, wow, like I'm stressing over nothing. Like, you're all right.
Do your kids correct you? Like my child corrects me all the time.
Oh,
My
yeah.
daughter does, not my son, but my 6-year-old. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like Jalen's like, you really got mad over that? Yeah, I got mad. I feel like I have a right to. And sometimes it kind of stings, right? When it's real truthful, not something like that. But you're like, gosh, you're right. I hate it when you're right. Because I should always be right. This is the wrong way. But you do, like, you learn a lot through your kids and also like a lot about yourself, right?
That's what I like. I feel like what I got from my kids is just learning to parent differently than my parents parent me.
Yeah.
Because I would never be able to correct my parents.
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't say what.
For real.
Like, excuse
or
me?
lie.
Right. Or lie.
I cannot say lie. I don't like when my son says lie.
No, it's like lie. No, I'll be like, Mommy, you're telling stories.
Right.
Exactly.
So to have your child question you is just even though they're not being rude. We were told to stay in a child's place. We didn't know what place that was.
Right.
No,
we had to stay in it.
Yeah, it was like the place where you do not disturb, seen, not heard. Sometimes they don't want you to be seen. It's a big generational difference between parenting. And I can kind of appreciate, like, my mom wasn't that strict, in which my friends would come over the house and say, your mom let you say that? I'm like, yeah. Like, what's going on at your house? So for me, Like I always like I could question my mom. I tell her when she wrong. We just had a different type of relationship.
You
Oh
saw
yeah.
the
Oh,
three of us, our faces when you said
I could. So it's kind of weird because like with Jalen, I have to find that balance because I allow him to do that, but sometimes I'm like, okay, you pushing it, like you're going a little too far with it, and watch your tone. But yeah, I was always able to question her and to be like, now you know you're wrong for that. You know, and she'd be like, it'd be just a conversation. So I really appreciate it. So Tiffany's like, no.
like, what's the conversation?
Like even I still to this day, like I like kind of it is weird. Well, not weird, but it is a difference in how my mom raised me compared to how my son, is being raised by
Mm-hmm.
me. But like you said, it's like with you and your mom, it was more of a conversation. With me, it's like it's okay. What I say is what goes, and you don't question me. You don't ask me about it. You don't talk back to me or anything like that. Like even if she was wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't question your parents, and
Mm-hmm.
I saw how that impacted me as an adult,
Mm-hmm.
kind of stifled my communication as an adult. And
Mm-hmm.
so I wanted something different for my son. I wanted him to be able to, you know speak up for himself and advocate for himself, even as a child, because that's something important that I feel like they need to learn.
I agree with that. And one of the things I kind of dislike about society, or some parts of a society, is where it's like you don't question authority. And I think my mom allowed me to question authority, which I think is important because we know all authority figures aren't good people. And so you need to be able to question authority just for your safety, but also just because everybody's a person.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So I
But I
think,
mean,
go ahead.
uh, we weren't treated as, we didn't have opinions.
Yeah.
Right. That's true. That's
Right. And that's, I think that's the challenge, right? Is like when we grew up not knowing how to advocate for ourselves, like that transfers over to the workplace, that transfers over into
Mm-hmm.
relationships. Um, and we're making that shift for our kids to practice it now so that they feel like they can do it when it's necessary as they get older.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And not always the most comfortable with it because, I didn't grow up that way, but I just knew how, sometimes you did want to speak your mind and not be disrespectful or rude about it, but sometimes your parents were wrong.
All the time. Sometimes they still are.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I'm not, as a parent, I'm not wrong. But my parents are wrong.
Right.
It's an ego death.
Uh-huh.
yeah.
It totally is. So, kind of in line with that, I think for me, one of the biggest things I've gotten from parenting is growing up for me, I had a lot of low self esteem, which kind of carries over with confidence. But I think one of the things I learned is like how strong, especially if you're a single mother, that you have to be. So, I mean, like the other week, when we went to brunch, the other week, I didn't feel good, right? And it's like, well, I can't. Jalen's like, "Are you okay?" But it's like you kind of almost feel like you have to, like, get through it. Why is Tiffany? Tiffany's frozen.
Am I? I'm frozen.
It's coming back,
Oh.
but it's like
I'm
you
not all
have to.
sad about it.
But you have to kind of, you almost like you have to take care of them, right? And so you find this superpower that if it was just me, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I just gotta lay in the bed. It's like, okay, well, he gotta eat, right? Thank God he's like 15. I keep messing up his age. So he can do a lot of stuff by himself. But even when he was smaller, it's like you just have to like pick up and keep going. And I think that's one thing like all moms have in common.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's hard to kind of balance, like you said, want to do the best, and then
Your sound went out.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry. But yeah, I was just saying how, your mothering kind of takes precedent over everything. And it's like we end up putting ourselves last. I'm very guilty of doing that. Um, but yeah, it's like you just have to remember, okay, I'm a person too. I have my needs, and I'm better whenever I put myself first, and then I can be a better person for my kid.
Mm-hmm. Did you guys go through the phase where I know I was a single mom? I was I wasn't very, very young, but I was young. And I went through this phase where it was like I wouldn't do anything for myself. I wouldn't buy myself clothes. I think I went maybe a year without even buying myself clothes. I feel like everything I had to go into my child. Did y'all struggle with that as well?
I went through that.
Mm-hmm.
I went through that. Um, and I had to get out of that because it doesn't, because you have to, like Tamara said, you have to make yourself happy in order for you to be able to give your child what they need.
Mm-hmm.
You have to treat yourself and treat yourself good.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. And Miss Shalise is an expert on self-care.
I try. I think that is where I struggle, is feeling selfish, because I have learned how to master taking care of myself. Even when I fault, I know like the things that I can do to pick myself back up.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with my daughter, it's still a journey. I don't know everything that helps to cultivate her being her best self.
Oh,
So it can feel like, okay, like I know that I like this food and I know I'm going to eat it. But today she may not like it, and so then it creates this self doubt of like, well, hey, am I being the mom that I need to be? Because I don't know if she's going to like broccoli today.
yeah, and it'll be little things like that, right? Like this child didn't take no pencils to school. God, what did I do to him? Like why his memory not? Like what did I do?
Yeah, the guilt. Yeah. Minor things.
Mm-hmm. It will be.
Rizal, I just went through that, something similar to that this week, where even though it was kind of out of my control, where like we just moved, so I was trying to get like the bus transportation issue resolved at the school. They didn't, and he ended up not having a way to get home. And I was in a meeting at work. I couldn't answer my phone. He was calling, the school was calling. And so he just ended up calling Rizal and said, hey, can you come pick me up? So then I felt bad because I'm like, I didn't feel like at the time I was putting him as a priority. But at the same, and then I felt bad because I'm like, okay, well now my friend is inconvenienced because, she didn't plan for this. So I kind of felt bad at the same time because I'm like, okay, I need to do a better job of making sure that I'm always available for my kid, which realistically speaking, I am. It was just that one day.
But you put him in a good position to know where he needed to go to get to where he needed to be. Because some kids don't even have that option of who to call, who can I go to help. So that was a good position that you still had him in. He could go to someone that he trusted and you trust as well.
Yeah. So I'm definitely thankful for that. So, but yeah, that was a moment that I had this week.
Yeah, and that was such a good point, Tiffany, because I hadn't thought about it that way. I thought about it like, okay, he called me, let me go. I have no problem. Like, I'm like, okay, I'll go. I have like parents. It was a point like parents would call me in the apartment, like, can you take my child to school? I have taken Jalen to school and went back and took other people's kids. So it don't bother me at all. But that's such a good point because you taught him independence. He was able to solve his own and problem solving. So he was able to solve his own problem. And that's what we want them to do.
Yeah, I didn't think about it that way, but yeah, that's a good point.
And sometimes I think that is the hard part of like being the primary parent and like having these roles that you have to fulfill and feeling like there's no space for you to have grace, right? Of like you have to work and you have to be a mom.
Right.
Yeah.
It does happen that way. I had a moment of guilt with my son when I was pregnant with my daughter. and he wanted to go and be a camp counselor, but I had to pay for him to be a camp counselor. But I also had to move because he needed to be close to his school. So
you had to pay. Hold on. You had to pay for him to go work?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the camp counselor at like
Yeah,
the
you have
Y.
to pay. He was
Yeah,
it's called a leader in training, so it was like
Yep.
$1,200 for 2 weeks or something like that.
Yep.
And at the time, I don't know what it is now, but I had to pay for it. But I'm like, I have to move, so I had to spend X amount of thousands of dollars to move for him as well. And these ungrateful children, he made me feel so guilty about it. I felt bad. I'm like, I'm doing this for you, but then this was something else that he wanted to do. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna have a brand new baby. And I can't at the time he also wanted to stay in his school district, which I was living outside of the district. So the school bus didn't pick him up. So I had to drive him to school. And I'm like, I can't do that with a newborn. And she was born when he was going to school, but he still made me feel bad. And I carried the guilt for a long time.
That's crazy. So let me ask you this. Do you think, because at that time he was the only child, right? And I think we've all had like the only child thing going on. Do you think like kind of him being the center for so long and then you made a decision where he wasn't the center, or where you did something he didn't want you to do? You think that has something to do with his reaction?
Yes, but again, the move was for him because I needed to move back into his school district to make it. I mean, it was going to be convenient for both of us, but he wanted to stay in his school. So it was a decision that was mainly based on him because a new school was like right across the street, but he didn't want to go to that high school.
Oh, wow.
But, I mean, I'm pretty sure, my kids are 15 and 11 months apart. He had the option of being very selfish.
Yeah.
For a very long time. So, I mean, just to throw that in there, and it's like, okay, I'm almost 16 and now I have changed my life.
I do understand that. I was the youngest, and I was so glad when they left. I love them, but I was so glad. I'm just being honest. They know. It's no secret. I was like, oh yes, I have 2 rooms to myself. Like, it's peaceful. That's the best. Okay, so I think that brings us into another topic, is like your tribe, right? So Tamara, son needed a ride, and I hop up and get him a ride. And so I think something that was so valuable in the way I met you guys was through the moms group, and it really helped me expand my tribe and to feel like I have some people to count on, because so many people move and they don't have anyone, in their area that they can really count on. So if I had to drive all the way to where Tiffany stay, if I had to drive out there, like, I feel like I could, and my child would be safe. I would run out of gas on the way, but I could, and my child would. So
I live far.
You do live far. So how has, like, I guess, do you have a tribe? And I know, like, we're all connected. And like, how has your tribe impacted your mothering?
I do have a tribe. My father lives with me, but a major help is my mom. She lives 30 minutes from me. My son still lives here. He's 22. He's like this all day, but he watches her as much as my sister, she lives in North Carolina. Like, I do have people that do help. So it makes life a lot easier for me, especially since I'm a person that loves to travel. They do. I mean, they watch my dogs. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear them.
It's okay. So yeah, and Tiffany just got back from Africa. Like I guess it wasn't just now, but like a month or two ago,
A
month
month
and
ago.
a half
Yeah.
ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful pictures. How about you, Tamara?
Yeah, so I mean, of course, you're part of my tribe. My tribe is very small, though.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm just one of those people. I have just always been. I have trust issues, so having other around my son, whenever he was younger, I was just very selective about who he was around, and because limited what I
real life, mom life happening right
In
now.
real life, mom life.
exactly. But yeah, it kind of limited what I did whenever I was younger. Even the jobs that I took, I didn't take any roles where it required me to travel. Up until this year, I didn't take any roles that required me to travel.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I can say having a tribe definitely impacts it. And not only just doing like things like traveling or dating or something like that, but just to have like your own day, to have like a mental health day just to
Yes,
yourself, kind of just breathe. Um, it helps.
I agree. How about you, Shalise?
Well, Tamara, you mentioned, you have trust issues. I have hyper independence issues.
Oh yes.
I recognize that most of my tribe does not live here in the state. And
Mm,
so it can be challenging when like I'm like, oh, I just need a moment to decompress. But sometimes I am reminded about this tribe that I have around me, just like asking my sister to watch my daughter while I went to a concert, and she was like, whenever you want me to get her, like I'll get her. And it was just like, but I feel so much guilt and fear of like, well, what if they don't want to? But
mm-hmm.
also being able to look at that as like, wow, like people really like hanging out with your kid.
That's true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, what has been the most challenging aspect of being a mother? Like, what did you not expect to be as much of a challenge as it turned out to be?
Teenage years.
That's mine too.
Oh,
I'm not even there yet, but I feel it.
nobody warns you.
Right.
And they kind of warn you, like we all know, oh, they're gonna be teenagers, and then it happens.
But you know what? It's like terrible twos and horrible threes. And it's just like, no, nothing prepared me for like 13 and up. And he's 22 and I'm still struggling.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. I like had a moment, maybe, I don't know, maybe a month ago. I guess it don't matter when. But I had a moment where I was like, I remember when my child liked me, like that 5-year-old age, and they don't care if you come to the school. And I went on a field trip with him, and he refused to acknowledge me, did not speak to me, acted like I didn't exist for the whole day. It was like a 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock thing, and homeboy didn't say nothing to me until we were getting in the car to go. It's like, really? I thought I was a cool parent.
Yeah, I think that's what got me too. Because I'm like, in your mind, you're like, okay, well, I'm not like my parents.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I had something similar to where I think I mentioned like taking him to the bus stop or something like that. He was like, no, I'll go to the bus stop by myself. And I'm not gonna try to like embarrass you or nothing like that. I'm sorry.
Because there's no such thing as a cool parent.
But you know what though? When I grew up, I remember thinking other people's parents were cool, right? Like I'm like, oh, her parent, like she dressed like she young, she hot, she fly. But maybe they didn't think their parent was cool.
Mm-hmm.
I know my son, when he was wrestling and I would come in leggings, he's like,
Oh no.
yeah.
No.
Because one of his teammates was like, oh, that's your sister? I was like, no.
Yeah, you gotta say, I would have told you to stay home. Don't come back no more.
I was like, you think I'm your sister?
Don't come back. Just stay home. It's okay. You know, I feel your support from a distance.
Right.
A far, far distance.
He's like jeans and sweats only.
Oh,
That's
wow.
hilarious.
Yeah. I was not prepared for how overprotective that my son would be of me as
He
well.
is. He is. I know.
Yeah. And so it's like now it's like if I get a phone call and he hears a male voice, he's like, "Who is that?" I'm like, first of all, wait a minute. I'm a parent. Blow your brakes. Or it's like if I like my phone dings, who's texting? Who is that? I'm like, why are you asking? Or he's like, who's all gonna be there? Like, calm down.
I guess father.
Like,
That's funny. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's definitely protective. He's like, do you know if my mama home yet? She okay. She okay. Go to bed. Go to bed. It's okay. Go play with your friend. It's okay.
I guess that's another embarrassing thing. It's like sometimes I have to like text him because he's like, if I don't hear from you for long, something happened to you and you're like dead. And so it's like now it's like almost like a running joke where I'll text him, I'm like, I'm not dead, I'm at Publix. I'll be.
You sound like my mama. You sound like my mama. She'd be like, where you at? Oh my God, that's so funny. How about you, Shalise?
I would say thus far, one of the hardest things is when you teach your child how to advocate for themselves, you got to be prepared for them to advocate with you.
Mm-hmm. That's why our parents didn't do it.
Right. Because it's like, oh, okay. That's the hard part. And I will say, like, now we're in that tween stage. So to see, like, how she is evolving and that she's not my little baby anymore, that part is hard.
Yeah. And then we have to go through, like, because my son's 15. So I know in just a moment, I'm have to go through the other transition of parenthood where it's like, I'm no longer the person of authority telling you what to do, but now I'm just an advisor on the outside looking in. And I know my mama never got there. So I don't know if I'm ever going to get there. That's going to be, I mean, it's tough. It's tough.
My son is 22, and I feel like I'm still not the advisor. Like I'm still calling him. Did you drink water today?
No, you don't.
Yeah, I do. Yes, I do.
You call him and ask him if he drank water.
Mm-hmm.
Stop. Let it go.
Did you wash your clothes?
Girl, if you want to walk around stinking, then at 22, you just walk around stinking. Just don't come to my house.
I have control issues, so
That's me too. I'm talking crap, but I know. I'm be the same way. I'm talking crap.
He's like, no. I'm like, when's the last time you drank water? He's like, 2 days ago. See, no. See, that's why I'm on you.
You better back in one of them bottles that you track.
I did. But then he put so much ice in them. I'm like, dude, seriously? You got like this much water and like ice?
The ice melts.
No. He put juice in there after that. No.
Oh, well. You're going to have to let him learn. You got to let him learn. That's how you got to.
But you know what? It's hard. And I think because I grew up so different. I'm from the city. So independent, so young. I need to tell me these things. Like I was grocery shopping. I was doing things. I tell my son, I mean, he doesn't look at a price. He's the most expensive thing on the shelf. I'm like, go get some socks. He'll buy a pair of socks. I'm like, oh, I didn't know.
Tiffany, your voice is going out. I think you're back. So yeah. I think I have the same issue, but I'm realizing like my control has like definitely impaired my child. because I'm his assistant, his chef, his like maid. I'm his alarm clock. Like, and it's like, okay, like I can't take on all these responsibilities. Like it's too much. It gets very, very overwhelming.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And like I said, it kind of hinders their growth. I mean, I realize how I done by doing so much for him.
Hmm.
And I'm like, at a certain point, you're gonna have to like be very independent. Like, I'm not always gonna be around to like remind you of things. Like
Hmm.
in the advisor role, but at the same time, it's like you shouldn't call me to figure out how to make a doctor's appointment. You shouldn't call me to figure out should I wash whites with red clothes. Like, you shouldn't call me for stuff like that. You
Yeah.
should be
Mm-hmm.
those type of decisions on your own.
That's kind of funny. When you say doctor, I'm like, I just told a grown man to call the doctor. So I don't know if that part go away. I'm just gonna be honest, based on my experience. Um,
So,
well, I'm like, you probably should call the doctor. Here's a number. Like, let me look up a number. Like, seriously. Um, but yeah. All right. So we are over time. Um, What can our last question be as we exit? I'm gonna give y'all time to think about it. In the meantime, Miss Shalise, I'm going to give the screen to you so that you can talk about your business.
Oh, this is fancy. Well, hello. I am Shalise Nelson. I am a licensed psychotherapist, professional counselor in the state of Georgia, and I work with creatives in overcoming self doubt and really leaning into their authenticity to create the lives that they desire to. So, I am currently accepting clients, and if you are interested, you are more than welcome to visit ShaliceNelsonLPC.com.
That was so professional. You should literally do voiceover.
I've
for
been thinking about that as a little side gig,
I thought about it. I took voiceover lessons. Because I
What
was like,
haven't you done?
I've done a lot, but not a lot. All right. So Tiffany, you're next. I'm gonna add you. Tiffany has an amazing small business that's growing.
I do. I have a small business. It is called Pink Velvet Glove. I am currently on Etsy. It is more of a natural skincare business that also deals with feminine care, more so during maintenance and a lot of issues that women have that has been for women to talk about. So you can visit my shop on Etsy. It's PVG Body Care.
Tiffany's link is below. And then I'm going to show Shalisa's link as well again. There you go. And I am Joy Roselle. You can find me on all major platforms. Well, I don't know. I don't do all of them, but you can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I am Active Potential. So I do coaching. I do life and career coaching. So we can talk about self-confidence. We can talk about career goals. We can talk about business goals, whatever you need to talk about, because it all intersects with your everyday life. So you can find me at activepotential.com. Actually, add a dash in there, active-potential.com. And also Black Girl Joy from now on. So you can find us there too. All right. So did anyone come up with our last topic?
I have a question.
Yes.
What is Maybe I don't have a question. It sounded great in my head. I'm like, how I'm gonna say this? How I'm gonna word it, right?
What is
Like
it about?
our kids.
Okay, what you want to say?
Like what is the everlasting thought you hope that your child will continue to like live with throughout their life that you've fostered for them?
I don't know if I fostered it. I'll start. I don't know if I fostered it, but I could tell you what one of them is. I just had this conversation as we drove to the school, and my child rolled his eyes at me and said, "Why?" I told him that I he did. He was like, "Do we have to have these talks every time we get in the car? Is this a thing now?" But I was like, "Do you know why I push you to be great?" Right? And I really want it to stick with him that I do that because he has the ability to be great and I want him to achieve great things. And so that really, for some reason, popped in my head the other day. And we've been doing these little talks, and he hates them, but but I do. I really want him. I feel like growing up, especially growing up in South Georgia, as a young black girl in the a city that wasn't very progressive, you know um parents mom was the first year of integrated school, right? Her senior year was the first year of integrating school. So I have this history where, like, my parents always wanted me to do well, right? But because of the ceilings they had seen in their lives, right, they're good. Like, to me, what their great was, to me, it's like, okay, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's almost like a ceiling. And I feel like in the beginning, earlier in my adulthood, I didn't fully embody and fully act in a way that was like fulfilling my purpose and my greatness, right? Because it was like, well, I can do this much, but I'm never going to make it to this level. And so for me, I want that to really stick with him. Like, you don't have to be beholden to my threshold even, and my threshold is super high for him. I have to watch that at times, but set your own threshold and go as far as you can.
Oh, that's good.
That is good.
I think for me, I I always try to tell him, one, you need to make the decisions that are going to impact your life. Like, he's getting to the age where people are constantly asking him what he wants to do when he's older and everything else like that, and giving him opinions of what they want him to do. But I always try to encourage him, like, listen, you're the one that's going to have to live with the decisions that you make. So you're going to have to make the decisions that you can live with, not for me, not for your dad, not for anybody else, because it's going to be your life. So you're going to have to make the decisions that you want for your life. And then I also tell him, I was like, if you don't know anything else, know that your mama loves you.
Oh.
Like, like, if nothing else, if you're not confident and sure about anything else in this world, just know that I love you.
Aw.
That's sweet.
All right.
Yes, I would say like that is the message. Like that my daughter is always deserving of love. Like she might be too loud for someone else, too opinionated for someone else. Um, that doesn't matter. Like you are always enough. You're never too much. And to
That's,
stand in her power.
that's a good one, though,
Yeah.
especially for Black girls.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes. Tiffany, what are you telling your two?
Oh, so with my daughter, I have loosened the reins with her a bit because, I had my son at a very young age and I was still under, like, really following a lot of what my mother did when it came to my son. So I do, I do let her have an opinion, and I do let her know that I love her because I don't want her to grow up with the same kind of toxic mentality that I grew up with when it comes to raising a daughter. With my son, it's different. I always tell my son, I always tell him, I said, before you do anything, I said, just think, what would my mom think?
That's a good one.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
So because my son is, I think he still needs my daughter at her very young age is a lot more independent, and I've allowed it with her. With my son, I did overparent him. I don't know if that's really a thing, but I felt like I did, and I still do. So with him, I still have to feel like before you do anything, just think about how I would feel or what I would say or what I would think before you actually make that decision and feel and think if it's like the right decision for you to make. He's not there yet, but it'll kick in one of these days.
No, that's so true. That's so true. I feel like, especially with the first child, and I don't know, I don't have a second. I don't plan on having a second.
Nope.
Make that very clear, okay?
Look, just saying. But you do, like, you feel like you, even from birth, like you probably cuddle them a little more. Like you're so protective and you're learning and you're figuring it out. And I could see, like, definitely my child was baby. He was baby. He needs some independence. I'm like, learn how to cook something. Do something. Do something on your own.
Same.
All right. So everyone who's watching, if you want to put something in the comments about what's the best part of motherhood to you, that would be amazing. We love to read those. And we're about to call it a night because we got kids and we got to go to work tomorrow. Right. So it is what it is. We got one right behind there. There's Miss Madison. There she is. Oh gosh. Hi. All right then. Well, we will see you later. Thank you for tuning in and thank you ladies for coming. I really appreciate it. Bye.
Thank you for having us. Bye.
Bye.